A young man visiting and helping his uncle in New York City finds himself forced to fight a street gang and the mob with his martial arts skills. Jackie Chan's first American movie, Rumble in the Bronx, is up next on Inside Movies. Hey guys, welcome to Inside Movies with George Michail and friends. Today I'm joined by novelist Andrew Buckley and writer and artist GMB CHOMICHUK. Dudes, thanks so much for being on the show.
You're welcome. It gets darker every episode we record. And now I have this ring light. I'd like to make a shout out to all YouTube stars that do this stuff on the regular. I don't know how you do it. I have to literally put sunglasses on to not have my retinas burned out by this ring light. So thank you.
It's the all bright lights of your YouTube fame. Just kind of.
Ooh, no.
Before we get into our movie review, Andrew, you've got some novels available. Can you tell us what your newest books are?
My newest are my oldest. I had re-releases last year of Death, the Devil, and the Goldfish and STILTSKIN, which is my two debut novels that came out first in 2014, 15 respectively. And they got a re-release with a new publisher, new covers and such last year. So you can pick those up wherever books are sold if you like, silly genre fiction and of the urban fantasy variety.
Awesome. Yeah. And so anyone can go to like a Barnes or Noble or Chapters in Canada or Indigo and ask them to bring those books in, or maybe they have them there and pick up Andrew's books. I've got Rumpelstiltskin personally, and I loved it. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
I'm glad you didn't talk about your werewolf books, because now that I'm out on a hill in the woods recording this, I don't want to talk about
to you. Yeah, I don't want to scare you. So
no monsters. Let's just stick to the kung fu. I'm glad we not recording a horror movie this time. Just action, adventure, comedy. This movie has it all, right, George?
Absolutely. Let's get into the good. What did you guys like about Rumble in the Bronx?
Can I tell a story?
Absolutely.
So, in Winnipeg, where I live, there was, at the time this movie first came out, at least to me, this shitty theater with the kind of floor that, your shoes just like peel off of, and everything's ripped and everything smells a little bit like urine, and the screen is a little bit tilted and out of focus. And a bunch of my friends said, let's go see a Jackie Chan movie. And at that time in my life, I have to say, I didn't know what a Jackie Chan movie was. So Rumble in the Bronx has its distinction as being the moment where I said, holy shit, who is this person? What is going on? How can a movie that is so low budget and shoestring feel so incredibly epic? My goodness, I love this movie.
What year was this, George? What year was this movie?
It was released in 97, but I think it was made in 95. So it was made in 95 for Hong Kong, and then came out in North America in 97, I believe. I was familiar with Jackie Chan from I had spent some summers in Greece, and so watching it all in Greek, I didn't understand what I was watching, but I knew I liked it, and I didn't even know what his name was. And then I do believe that Jackie Chan won an MTV Movie Award just before this movie was released, and so. Which is crazy because he had never had a North American movie, but he won like a Lifetime Achievement Award, because he was like 40 years old. He had like a ton of movies under his belt. And so he won this award. It brought more attention to him. And then when this movie came out, I went and saw it in the theater as well.
This movie meant that summer, my friend and I went to an old video, like back in the ancient days, there were these places called video stores, and you could rent video cassettes. And the person who worked there had a bunch of bootlegs of Jackie Chan movies that he rented us over the counter. Like, they weren't the store's movies. They were his bootlegs of a whole bunch of early Jackie Chan movies that then we paid him to borrow. And that summer was like the summer of Jackie Chan. And just like from Drunken Boxer to Rumble in the Bronx, like, and everything in between. My goodness. How is he alive? I don't know.
Oh, his biography actually is really crazy interesting, because he talks about this movie and Drunk Master and all the others that he did, where he's just done all these incredible, like, put his body through, like, I think he broke his ankle on This one, right?
You can
This
watch
one,
it. They
yeah,
use
but
the
there's that
take.
stunt where he
Use the take, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
there's that stunt where he landed on his head from like 3 stories up, just directly on it. He still has a hole in his head to this day. Like it, yeah. He's put his body through so much. Let's get into the good though. Like what did we like other than it being awesome Jackie Chan-ness, particularly Rumble in the Bronx. Of course, there is the martial arts stunts. There's some crazy ones in this one. He jumped from the parkade across the street and then landed on a fire escape. It's insane. There's a lot of amazing stunt work in this movie.
one of the good things I want to say is like I love the way that this like I don't even know what it was. There was this aesthetic in the 90s where the 90s was doing the left like hungover from the 80s. Like they had their 80s hangover, and the production design of all the like costumed villains essentially that Jackie Chan fights in this movie is like a 80s hangover. He's just punching out what's left of the 80s that have become this horrible like cliched gang. I love it. Every time he punches out one of those guys, it's like a little piece of the bad parts of my childhood are excised from myself.
The story is just interesting enough, right? I like that the original antagonists are not who end up being the final bosses of the movie, right? There's like a real organized crime syndicate that is taking down people and mean business. They're throwing people in wood chippers, and they're very dangerous. And so for me, it was interesting enough, right? Because if it was all it was Jackie Chan overcoming the original obstacle of the biker gang, it wouldn't really be that interesting. This just gives it a little bit more where you're not sure exactly where it's going to go upon your original viewing of the movie. And so I think that was essential for just making it a little bit of a better Jackie Chan movie.
To the point on the good, Jackie Chan's ability to take the thinnest plot and make it interesting to watch with a stunt is like his superpower, right?
Yeah.
You don't ask yourself, why would you go into the den of crime and face off everyone as soon as he's flipping doors and back flipping over shopping carts? You don't even care anymore. You're just the wow factor is so big that you just can't wait to see what's going to happen next.
My favorite scene in the movie though by far is when he goes to the gang's hideout and he's fighting all of them. He unplugs the stereo and he's like had enough of their crap. And the way he uses the environment, he's ducking under pinball machines, jumping on the refrigerator, in the refrigerator. He's using the ski to fight. Just it's insane. It's choreographed just beautifully. It's like an adrenaline rush just to watch that scene. And I love those bad guys too. Like they are comical, like almost like 80s hangover, like you said, but then also they're bad, but they're not so bad. Like they kind of seem like kids, they're always stealing candy and he'll let them go if you kiss my ass, things like this. Like it's like they're not super serious, kind of.
The movie,
but they didn't beat the hell out of those bottles.
It's got that great tone of like standing up to the bully because they're not that dangerous. They're not really out to kill him, or like even though they aren't. It's like this comic book logic in the whole film. Yeah, totally.
It was super campy. I loved how just weirdly campy the comedy side of it was. But then you're right, there was some like brutal parts to it with the violence. But at the same time, it's always that Jackie Chan-esque stuff where he's using all the props and he's using anything around him, and it's kind of funny. And the villains are looking always awkwardly surprised, and like it. I don't know. I mean, we could use this for any Jackie Chan movie, really, but because they're all kind of like that. But this was such a cool, colorful entry into it, and
his physicality that tells you like. So there's these overcomplicated fight choreographies that you could really actually, and we see it in modern films now, right? There's so much life drained out of them where it's just like the actor hitting the beats and getting all this complicated choreography. I won't shout out any films, but maybe we'll review some so I can be angry at them later. But in a Jackie Chan movie, every one of those twists, turns, and stunts tells you something about him. Is he scared? Is he happy? Is he relieved? Is he in a good mood? Is he in a bad mood? It all comes across in every one of those stunts. in his expression, his physical expression, but also in his body language. And that is just, I mean, it's obvious why he's such a huge star.
Totally.
Well, and he's just like triple threat doesn't even begin to, he can write, he can direct, he can do the martial arts, he can do the comedy, he can sing, he can all, yeah, he can do it all. Like Jackie Chan's just the man. One scene that I did think was gruesome and funny was when they're putting the bad guys into the wood chipper. Just the actor's response, he's like, Lance! He's just like, Lance! Oh man. I also like the comedy in the store when Jackie's like in front of the two-way mirror and he doesn't realize it and he's posing and smelling his armpit and just just being silly. It's just great.
And there's this, like, it's one of those films. I mean, all Jackie Chan movies where the real adventure is then reading about how they did it and seeing the reels of the stunts and hearing all that. One of my favorite little apocryphal bits of this is that scene in the alley where where they're using the bats to fling the bottles at him. Apparently, an hour into filming that, they ran out of the sugar glass bottles. And Jackie Chan said, well, we have to finish the scene. Just use regular glass. And so the cuts that start to appear on him in the later parts of those takes are the actual glass cutting his scalp and cutting his knuckles and because they stopped using fake bottles and just used real ones to finish the scenes.
The guy's a maniac. Like, what's crazy is like this, he was already like a big star in Asia. And like when this came out, like he didn't have to be doing this stuff. Like, he was still choosing in mid-40s to be just putting his body through this. But the movie isn't perfect. Let's talk about the bad. What did you guys not like about it?
Hovercraft fight, like chase.
That didn't work for you?
Well, I mean, I understand it contextually because his foot was all busted at that point, but
it was
right. It didn't really feel. It felt like a Vancouver chase scene, not a New York chase scene.
Oh yeah, I never thought about that. I always think of it as Vancouver because that's
right. But it's supposed to be New York. But like those hovercrafts are in Vancouver, and so anyone who knows, I don't know that whole bit. Now, I don't want to say something stupid about a Jackie Chan movie like it took me out of the realism. Because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But there is the dubbing. The dubbing is not great.
I loved it. I loved how bad the dubbing was. My favorite. Because remember, I saw it in a shitty theater first. Right? So a badly dubbed, brilliant kung fu movie, that is how they're supposed to be. That's how they like saturate the consciousness of the West, is they came in not quite right and yet shone as a result.
The romantic subplots don't go anywhere, and they don't really add much to the movie, especially the one with the shopkeep, the woman who buys the store from Jackie's uncle. She's actually a big musician in Asia, or at least she was. She actually passed away. But she was like basically like the Hong Kong Madonna, and which is crazy because like she's like the reserved one, and then the other actress that plays Nancy, I believe, she's a Canadian actress and is kind of more of the eye candy of the movie, whereas the rock star that's famous plays it pretty conservative, and at least in her dress and her wardrobe for the movie. But I didn't really care for the romantic subplot in the movie. It didn't really add too much. I understand the Nancy character; it was important.
That's my only bad, is that the story was weak. But you don't watch a Jackie Chan movie for the amazing storytelling of it. I mean, I love story, and it's the first thing that I'm always going to look at in a movie, but not a Jackie Chan movie.
Yeah, right. It's like the stunts make too realistic of a story, or too motivated or driven of a story, is going to be incongruous to the whole feeling of it.
I feel you're stretching now, but sure. Yeah, okay, we can go with that.
You think I'm stretching?
Maybe a little bit. You think you're putting too much stock in the stunts now. They are highly entertaining. Stop looking at me so close with those creepy fucking eyes.
So in the filming of the movie, Jackie Chan does break his ankle jumping onto the hovercraft there. The whole hovercraft thing to me was a bit of a letdown. It's cool seeing Jackie water ski, get ran over by the hovercraft, but I would have preferred to see a final showdown with the crime syndicate, maybe a boss fight with the White Tiger. I understand that wasn't possible due to his injury, and maybe that was the original intent. I don't know if this was the original intent of the movie, but for me, it kind of lets down because this is a kung fu movie. This isn't a hovercraft movie.
Yeah, totally true. Now, let's face it, Jackie Chan could have just had the character break his ankle and then filmed a fight scene where Jackie Chan's in a wheelchair, and it'd probably be better than half the fight scenes we see anyway.
Yeah, that'd be incredible.
Right? Like, imagine that limitation.
I'd be down for that 100%.
We're going to film a fight scene in the hospital with your broken leg. How do you feel about that? He's probably done it. There's probably takes. Probably out.
He has a thing against that, though. Like, he always wanted to project this image of almost superhuman ability in the stunts and the fighting that he does. That I think there was always like a thing in his biography that he never wanted to be seen injured. Never wanted to be shown on film, because that's not why people saw Jackie Chan. They saw him as this crazy, amazing dude who bounced everywhere and beat everybody up and was funny and amazing and awesome all at the same time.
Yeah, he is kind of like a human pinball in these movies. And yeah, it kind of takes away from the humor if he really does get hurt. And let's get into the skinny. Do you guys have final grades for Rumble in the Bronx? Oh, shit. We
lost Greg at the last minute. That's brutal. You're going to get him. You just got to have to get him to record his skinny and then check it in. I'll give it 8 karate chops out of 10. I have fun memories of this. We rented it in film school when I was going to film school in Vancouver, and we watched it in like the big lecture theater, like a few of us, and then we went out with the intention of going to see like some of the locations, and then we stopped at a bar, and that whole thing went out the window. But I do have fun memories of this movie for what it was. It was great, fun action Jackie Chan movie. They're all amazing. Is there a bad one? There's no bad one.
There's bad ones. There's ones that aren't not as good as others, for sure. For myself, I'm gonna give it an A-. I love Rumble in the Bronx. I think it's great. The action movie scenes are top notch, incredibly dangerous and thrilling. The humor is fun and doesn't overstay its welcome. At only 89 minutes long, I would have preferred a better villain, though White Tiger doesn't really do anything for me, and he holds the movie back from being like an A or an A+.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, for my skinny of Rumble in the Bronx, I think it's really important that we scale it out of, 216 bones in the human body. It should have a scale somewhere around that. I would give Rumble in the Bronx 200 broken bones as my first Jackie Chan experience, which set me on the path to many, many other wonderful Jackie Chan experiences. The movie is a B movie at best, but it gets 200 broken bones from me.
All right, guys. So I have tagged my socials, Andrew's socials, Greg's socials. They're all in the links in the description. I've also tagged a link to Andrew's novels. So, and you can check out his website and join us next time on Inside Movies. Peace, guys.